I don't think there'd never be, in terms of an underdog performance like Spud, because we knew Michael and Dominique were special and Dr. J, but nobody knew Spud was special like that as a dunker.
I think you saw the guys. I think it was Michael and Patrick's reaction. Everybody knew he could jump, but I think the dunks he was doing and the elevation, it started to surprise everybody. And
if you genuinely believe Spud Webb was nothing more than a dunk contest gimmick, a novelty act who got lucky one magical all-star weekend and rode that wave for the rest of his life, then you are completely, fundamentally, embarrassingly wrong. This 5'7" guard did not just win a single dunk contest and disappear into basketball history as a fun footnote. He played 12 full NBA seasons, 814 games, nearly 8,000 career points. In a league where point guards were pushing 6'5" and getting taller every single year, a man barely tall enough to clear the height requirement on a theme park ride carved out an entire professional career that lasted over a decade. But the real question, the one that actually matters, is how? How does a player who was told his entire life that he was simply too small end up not just surviving but genuinely thriving in a league built for giants? Was Spud Webb actually a real, legitimate basketball player? Or was he just a viral moment before the internet even existed to make things go viral? To find that answer, we have to go all the way back to Dallas, Texas, where this remarkable story first began. Anthony Jerome Webb entered the world on July 13, 1963, born and raised in Dallas. From the moment he was old enough to set foot on a basketball court, he was always the smallest body in the room. Not just slightly undersized, we are talking about the kind of small that made coaches look directly at him and then immediately look somewhere else. The kind of small that got you overlooked before you even touched the ball. In middle school, a young Spud Webb tried out for the basketball team. Quick feet, sharp handles, a heart that burned for the game. None of it was enough. He got cut without a second thought. The coaches did not see potential standing in front of them. They saw a liability they did not want to deal with. But here is where the story takes its first turn. While every other kid who got cut moved on and found something else to do, Spud Webb kept working. No team. No structure. No validation from anyone around him. Just an unshakable belief in himself and a basketball and whatever court he could find. By the time high school arrived, Wilmer Hutchins gave Webb his first real opportunity, and he made that coaching staff look like absolute geniuses for taking the chance. He ran the offense with a maturity and control that made him look twice his actual size on the floor. But when college recruitment season came around, the Division I programs wanted absolutely nothing to do with him. Too small. Every single school followed the exact same pattern: watch the film, get excited, pull out the measuring tape, and suddenly lose all interest. The tape measure won every single time over the actual talent. Webb's only realistic path forward was Midland College, junior college basketball. For most players that road feels like a dead end, a place where dreams go to fade quietly. But Spud Webb saw it as a proving ground, a stage where he could dominate until the right people were simply forced to pay attention. And dominate is exactly what he did. Webb absolutely lit up the junior college circuit until NC State came calling. The Wolfpack made a bold gamble on the 5'7" guard, bringing him into the ACC, one of the most competitive, most demanding college basketball conferences in the entire country. Webb did not flinch for a single second. He contributed immediately and by his senior year was averaging over 10 points per game against players who would go on to have professional careers. 2 seasons after NC State's legendary 1983 national championship run, Webb helped carry the Wolfpack all the way to the Elite Eight. He had proven beyond any reasonable doubt that he could compete at the highest level college basketball had to offer. Then came the NBA, a completely different animal operating by completely different rules. Scouts studied the film. They loved the speed. They respected the handles. They admired the heart and the competitive fire. Then they looked at the measurements and quietly closed their notebooks. Draft night arrived and Webb sat and waited as name after name got called without his own. Round 1 came and went. Round 2 passed without his name. Round 3, still nothing. Finally, deep into the 4th round with the 87th overall selection, the Detroit Pistons decided to take a chance on the kid from Dallas. To fully understand what that number means in today's context, the NBA draft only runs 2 rounds now. Being the 87th pick was essentially the league's polite way of saying they would think about it. And Webb almost never even got the chance to prove them wrong. Detroit cut him before the regular season started. Just like that, the NBA dream that had survived every obstacle suddenly seemed like it might be slipping away completely. The Atlanta Hawks needed bodies for training camp. Roster spots to fill, warm jerseys for practice, camp invitations to hand out to players they were not particularly serious about. They brought Spud Webb in not because they believed in him but simply because they had space available. Every single day at that training camp, Webb had to wake up and convince an entirely skeptical coaching staff that he deserved to remain in the building. Every single day, they looked sideways at the situation. How exactly do you play a 5'7" guard in a league where the competition at his position stands 6'5"? Then they actually watched him move. His speed was in a completely different category from everyone else on the floor. His handles were precise and surgical. And when they measured his vertical leap, somewhere between 42 and 46 inches, the room went quiet. The average NBA player records a 28-inch vertical. Spud Webb was launching himself nearly 50% higher than most of the players sharing the league with him. He made the roster. Barely, but he made it. Rookie season, 79 games, 7.8 points per game, solid flashes of what was possible. Then All-Star Weekend arrived in Dallas, his hometown. The 1986 Slam Dunk Contest featured his own teammate Dominique Wilkins, the defending champion, the most explosively powerful and visually spectacular dunker on the entire planet, sharing the floor with Spud Webb, a backup guard who nobody expected to actually compete. He was the entertainment before the real entertainment started. The sideshow before the main event. But nobody apparently told Webb what his role was supposed to be. In the first round he delivered reverse two-handers, 360-degree rotations, and bounce dunks that had the entire arena collectively holding its breath. A man standing nearly 2 full feet shorter than some of his competitors was somehow defying gravity in ways that seemed physically impossible. The finals came down to Spud versus Dominique, the 5'7" backup against the human highlight film. Dominique brought raw, jaw-dropping power. Webb brought something the crowd had genuinely never seen before. On his final attempt, Webb bounced the ball off the hardwood, rose to catch it at the absolute peak of its bounce, and threw down a one-handed slam that drew a perfect score of 50. The building came completely unglued. The kid from Dallas, cut in middle school, rejected by every Division I program, picked 87th overall, nearly released before his career began, had just won the NBA Slam Dunk Contest over the greatest dunker alive. But dunk contests do not win basketball games, and the NBA does not hand out guaranteed roster spots in exchange for highlight reel moments. Spud Webb had shocked the entire world in one unforgettable Saturday night. Now he had to prove he could actually play the game that put him there. After the 1986 dunk contest catapulted him into the national spotlight, the doubters arrived right alongside the attention. Cool dunks, absolutely. But could he actually run a professional offense? Could he defend guards who had 8 inches of height advantage over him? Could he consistently put points on the board when the game actually mattered and the competition was locked in? Webb answered every single question the only way he knew how, by putting his head down and going to work without saying a single word about it. The 1986-87 season saw him push his scoring to 8.0 points per game while establishing himself as a reliable and trustworthy backup who could genuinely facilitate an offense. But Webb had no interest whatsoever in spending his career as a glorified bench piece who people remembered for one famous weekend. By his third and fourth seasons in Atlanta, Webb had carved out a role that demanded real respect. In 1989-90 he averaged a career-high 9.9 points per game while shooting 48% from the field and distributing 5.4 assists per night. Those are not novelty statistics. Those are not numbers you put up by being a gimmick or a sideshow. Those are genuine, legitimate NBA production numbers. And defensively, Webb was nowhere near the automatic liability that everyone had assumed he would inevitably be. His quickness allowed him to stay in front of opposing guards and disrupt passing lanes with impressive consistency. A career average of 1.1 steals per game, not elite, but more than respectable for a player the entire league had written off as too small to guard anybody. Then Sacramento came calling. The Kings acquired Webb and handed him something he had never been given before in his professional career: the keys to the offense and the genuine opportunity to be the primary guy. The 1991-92 season became the defining chapter of everything Webb had worked toward. He averaged 16 points and 7.1 assists per game, both career highs. He started all 77 games he played that season. A 5'6" man was posting numbers that matched and sometimes exceeded what point guards half a foot taller were doing across the league every single night. For 4 complete seasons in Sacramento, Webb delivered exactly what the Kings asked of him. He ran the offense with the vision and command of a true floor general. Sacramento was not competing for championships during those years, but Webb proved conclusively and repeatedly that he was fully capable of leading a professional basketball team. In 1994-95 he appeared in all 82 regular season games and led the entire NBA in free throw percentage at an remarkable 93.4%. Durable, consistent, professional. Every single quality that the scouts and coaches who dismissed him early in his journey said he would never be able to sustain. Now step all the way back and absorb the complete picture of what Spud Webb's career actually produced. Career averages of 9.9 points, 5.3 assists, 45.2% shooting from the field, and 1.1 steals across 814 games spanning 12 NBA seasons. For a player selected 87th overall in his draft class, a player cut from his middle school team, a player every Division I program in the country rejected, a player the Detroit Pistons released before he played a single meaningful game. Those numbers are genuinely remarkable by any honest standard of evaluation. Webb's career scoring average sits higher than several players who received All-Star recognition during their careers. He was not a Hall of Famer. He was not the cornerstone of a championship franchise. But he was an absolutely legitimate NBA rotation player who held a roster spot and produced real results for more than a decade. The dunks made him famous across the world. The actual basketball kept him employed for 12 years. Spud Webb could flat out play. Full stop. After his playing days ended, Webb remained deeply connected to the game through coaching, mentoring, and passing down everything he had learned the hard way to the next generation of players navigating the same doubts he once faced. But his cultural footprint might actually be even larger than his basketball resume. The 1986 Slam Dunk Contest remains one of the most iconic, most replayed, most emotionally resonant moments in the entire history of the NBA. Every single All-Star weekend without exception, his name resurfaces in conversations about the greatest moments the event has ever produced. He established the standard for genuinely shocking, gravity-defying, expectation-shattering performances on that stage. And far beyond the sport itself, he became a universal symbol for anyone who has ever been told their limitations are fixed and permanent. If Spud Webb could do what he did, what legitimate excuse does anyone else have for giving up? So where does he honestly rank when everything is laid out clearly and fairly? Was Spud Webb an all-star? No, he was not. Was he a franchise cornerstone who carried a team to a championship? Absolutely not. But was he a legitimate, genuine, credible NBA player who defied every single expectation an entire sport placed on him and proved the entire basketball world wrong over 12 consecutive years? Without any question whatsoever. His career was never about being the undisputed best player in the room. It was about proving that being there at all was possible. In a league built entirely for giants, a 5'7" carved out 12 seasons, nearly 8,000 points, and one of the most unforgettable singular moments the sport has ever witnessed. That is not just impressive by some adjusted standard. That is legendary in every meaningful sense of the word. Spud Webb's story was never really about dominance. It was always, from the very beginning, about defiance. Every single game he suited up and stepped onto an NBA floor was a direct and personal response to every coach, every scout, every front office executive, and every doubter who looked at him and said the word no. So how good was Spud Webb actually? Good enough to play 12 NBA seasons when the league tried to send him home before they started. Good enough to outwork, outlast, and outperform everyone who ever told him the ceiling was lower than he could reach. Good enough to win the NBA Slam Dunk Contest over Dominique Wilkins in his own hometown in front of everyone who had watched him grow up. His 9.9 career scoring average will never earn him a Hall of Fame plaque. But Spud Webb's legacy will likely outlast players carrying far more impressive stat lines and far more prestigious accolades, because he proved something that transcends basketball entirely. The people who line up to tell you exactly what you cannot accomplish are almost always the same people who never had the courage to try themselves. At 5'7", Spud Webb was not just reaching for the rim every time he jumped. He was reaching for the impossible, and every single time, he grabbed it.